One of my favorite features on Cricut Design Space is the print then cut feature. And it also happens to be the feature that I get asked the most questions about. So today I'm going to take you from start to finish of how to use print then cut and answer some of those commonly asked questions that I often get. If you're new here, my name is Nisha. Welcome to Little Craft Nest. And if you're returning, welcome back to another crafting adventure. So what is print then cut and what can you use it for? Print then cut is exactly as it sounds. First you print something using your printer and then you have your Cricut machine cut around the outside of your design. You can use this process to make stickers, t-shirt designs, cutouts for your scrapbooks, and so much more. So let's jump onto Cricut Design Space and get started. The first thing you'll have to do is pick a picture that you want your printer to print out and then your Cricut to cut around. I have chosen this cute little bee here that I have uploaded from Design Bundles. And if you don't know how to upload designs from outside websites, I do have a video on that. So I'll leave that link down below in the description. So this file is a PNG file. In a few minutes, I'll also show you how to work with an SVG file and turn that into a print and cut image. Now, because this is a PNG file, you can see under operation that it says print then cut. This is not a cut image. And you'll also notice in the layers panel here, we only have one layer, and that is exactly what we want. Now, if we were to stretch out this image to make it bigger, you'll notice we get this little warning symbol right here. So we can click on that and we have two options. We can auto resize the image, or we can change the paper size. This is when you'll need to know your printer's capabilities. Now, Cricut Design Space works with pretty much any printer that you already have, so you don't have to go out and buy a new printer if you have one already. The one you have should work. So currently, if you look under print then cut page sizes, I have the letter size paper selected, which is 8.5 by 11. But if you had a printer that could handle larger paper and you have that paper on hand, such as legal or tabloid or even A3 paper, you can set that up right here and just click on the paper size that you are using in your printer. This is going to allow you to make your image larger if that is what you desire. You don't have to make it the maximum size. You can make your pictures really small if you want as well. I'm going to keep this at the letter size and click on done. But as you'll see, I still have the notification here because my image is too big for my paper size. So if I click on my red exclamation mark here, I can click on auto resize image. And now Design Space has shrunk my image to the maximum size I am able to make this cute little bumblebee. So now the width is 7.4 by 7.6, and that is the maximum size I will be able to make this bee unless I had a larger printer that was able to handle larger paper. I am currently using an Epson EcoTank printer and I absolutely love it, but feel free to use whatever printer that you enjoy using. So let's go ahead and click on Make It. And here you'll see our cute little bee, and his wings are stretching all the way out as far as they can go on our page. Now, one question I sometimes get is, do I have to mirror my image? The short answer is no. However, there are some times when you may want to mirror your image, such as if you're using specific t-shirt transfer paper, it may require for you to mirror your image. But for the purposes of today's example, we are not going to mirror this. We're just going to print this out on regular paper. So let's press continue. And the first thing we want to do is send this to the printer. So click on that. And here is our print setup. I only want one copy. And now we have an option to turn our bleed on or off. Now, this is totally up to you. So earlier I printed out these two pictures. This one has the bleed off. This one has the bleed on. And you'll notice the black line is quite a bit thicker on this butterfly than it is on this butterfly. So essentially what the bleed is doing is grabbing that outside color you have. In this case, it's black. Your picture could be different. and it's making that outside color stretch out. So why would you want to do that? One reason is to help with the calibration of your machine. So if you had a very fine black line going around your image and your machine didn't cut it perfectly, you might see some white edges going around your image if you didn't have the bleed on. But if you did turn the bleed on, this extra thick black line is going to hide those white pieces because we have a bit of an extra edge. So I'm going to peel this off here to show you the difference. So here is our image with no bleed marks. And let's take the paper off of this one as well. And I just accidentally ripped that piece there while pulling that off, but that's okay. But you'll notice with the final projects, these look the same. There's not much difference at all. And part of the reason is because I did calibrate my Cricut machine before I began my print then cut process. So if you haven't used print then cut before, or you haven't used print then cut in a long time, make sure you calibrate your machine first so that you will get the most accurate cut. I do have a video to show you how to calibrate your machine, which I will leave linked down below in the description of this video. So because my last image turned out so good without the bleed is not necessary for this image. And it's also going to save me a bit of extra ink as well. So I'm going to turn that off this time. But if you have a very thin border going around your image or you don't have one at all, I would suggest to keep the bleed on. One thing you will always want to turn on is the use of the system dialog box. So go ahead and click that. And also make sure at the top, if you have more than one printer, that you select the correct printer that you're using. Another question I often get asked is, how do I set up my printer with Cricut Design Space? The answer is you don't need to. As long as you have set your printer up to be working with your computer, Design Space will detect any printer that you have set up with your computer, so that's not something you will need to worry about. And then you can go ahead and click on Print. Now you're going to see this preparing print thing spinning around and around and around, and you're going to be like, what's happening? Where is my system dialog box? What you need to do is move your Design Space window down, and normally your system dialog box will be hiding behind your Design Space tab. So just move that out of the way, and then you can click on your print setting box. Now, depending on the printer and computer you have, your print setting box here may look a little different than mine. What I like to do is go under Media and Quality and click on that. And under quality, it says normal. I just like to change that to best so that I get the best possible print quality. Again, yours may look different. You may have a sliding bar or you may have some different options, but make sure you are using the best quality for your crafting projects. And then go ahead and click on print, and your design should start printing out of your printer. Once your picture has printed, we need to set our base material. And as I said, I printed this out just on regular copy paper, so that's what I'm going to select. But you can also print your picture out on cardstock, sticker paper, t-shirt transfer material, printable vinyl, sticker sheets, and so much more. You can basically print your design on any material that will go through your printer. So know your printer and what it's capable of. So let's select copy paper and load our mat and get this image cut out. Now make sure on your screen you take note of which way your picture is. If your picture is this way on your screen, do not put it on your mat this way because it's not going to cut out properly. Make sure you turn your picture the correct way and line it up at the top corner of your mat. And once that's on, you can load your mat into your machine like you normally would. If you look closely, you'll notice your Cricut machine has a little light, and this little light is scanning the registration marks, which are those black corners that were printed on your page. This is going to help your machine know exactly where to cut out your image. And once it has detected all your registration marks, it will begin to cut your image out. Now, if you get an error message on your Cricut and your machine is not cutting out your designs, it could be due to a few different reasons. First, if you're using glossy paper or have lights reflecting on your page, it's going to be really hard for your Cricut to read those lines. So one of the things you can do to prevent this from happening is apply matte tape over the registration marks. I like to use Scotch tape for this. Another reason why your Cricut may not read the registration marks is because you're using a very dark color paper. If you have an Explorer machine, I suggest sticking with white material. But if you have a maker, you can go ahead and use colored material. Just make sure your material is not a really dark color. So here's our little bee all cut out, and we can peel this off and reveal our cute little design here. Now, because there's a lot of really thin pieces and I use paper instead of cardstock, you do need to be careful that you don't rip it when you are taking it off the mat. So it's best to flip your mat upside down and gently peel the mat off of your paper. And there's our little bee. Now I want to show you how to use the print and cut process when using an SVG file from Cricut Design Space, because there are some other steps you do need to keep in mind. We're going to start on a blank page here and get a brand new design. So let's click on images, and I'm going to type in flower in the search bar here. And I want a free design. So under filters, I'm going to check that free box there. And let's say I wanted this flower here to be printed out. So I'm going to click on that, click on add to canvas, and there is our sunflower there. Now, if we go over to the layers panel, you'll notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different layers. So if we were to press make it right now, each of those layers would come on a different page, and you would cut this out of whatever material you were cutting out. It would not print first. We need to do some changes first. So let's click on cancel. And if we click on the sunflower, you'll also notice under operation, it says basic cut. So not only do we want to change this to a print then cut layer, we also want this to be 1 layer instead of 4. Right now, all these layers are grouped together. You can keep them grouped together if you want, if you don't want to make any changes, or you can go right above where it says group here and click those 2 little squares that are overlapping each other, and that will ungroup all your layers, and you can see all 4 layers here individually. So what we're going to do is select all 4 of these layers, go down to the bottom right and click on flatten. Now you'll notice in the layers panel that all these layers have now become 1 layer, and it says print then cut right next to it. And that's exactly what we want to do. So once again, if you want to stretch that out to make it bigger, you can. And then you can go and click on that red exclamation mark and click on auto resize image. And that's going to make your image the largest possible print size it can be for the page that you're using. If you don't want it to be that big, you don't have to make it that big. You can shrink it down like this and print it out whatever size you want it to be. Now, if I were to click on make it now, you'll notice we only have our 1 print then cut page here. We don't have a whole pile of different layers getting cut out on multiple different pages. But also with this particular sunflower, you'll notice the leaves and the stem and the flower aren't touching each other. So if we were to send this to the printer right now, it would cut around our sunflower, it would cut around our leaves, it would cut around our stem. And so our sunflower is going to be in pieces. And you may not want that, but if you do, you can go ahead and continue with this project and print this out. I'm going to click on cancel because I want this to be all 1 image. I'm actually going to leave the sunflower right here like this, just so we have an example to refer back to. And I'm going to duplicate this sunflower. So over here, we're going to click on duplicate and move it over here. And there are a few things you can do to make it print out together. You can add a shape behind this image. You can rearrange your pieces so that they're all touching each other. Or my favorite option is to create an offset. So if we go up to the top and click on offset, you will notice a blue line appearing around our image. Now you can make this smaller or bigger. I'm going to shrink this down just a little bit. And when you're happy with the placement of that dot, you can go ahead and click apply. And now we have this additional layer here that was behind our sunflower. You can go ahead and make this any color you want. So I'm not liking the black. I'm going to go click on that black and we're going to change that to white. And I've moved them around a little bit, so I want to make sure they're aligned properly. So I'm going to select both those layers, the white layer and the sunflower layer, and go up to align, and we're going to center those so that they're perfectly on top of each other. Now make sure you have both your layers selected, so the offset layer and your sunflower layer. Go down to the bottom right again, and once again you're going to click on flatten, and that's going to make those two layers now into one layer. I'm going to print out both of these sunflowers now and click on make it, and that way we can see the difference in the cuts between the two. So I'm going to click make it here, and as you can see, they're both on separate pages. If you think there's enough space to get them both on the same page, we can do that as well. So I'm going to click on this second page here, click on those three dots above my sunflower and click on move object. Then I'm going to select my first page and click on confirm. Now we have both sunflowers here, and I'm going to turn this one sideways. Let's put this one at the bottom of our page, and then we can go click on continue and get these printed out. So the same thing as before, we are going to send this to the printer, and I'm actually going to leave my bleed on for this example, and we're going to use our system dialog box, click on print, find that system dialog box behind our Design Space tab, and we're going to change the quality to best and click on print. Here are our sunflowers, and let's see how they cut out. So here's our sunflower that we had the white offset with, and because the offset was white and the paper's white, you're not going to see any bleed marks on the paper. This one did not have an offset around it, so it did come out in 4 different pieces. But you will also notice the bleed marks going around here. So you can kind of tell what the bleed does as it stretches that color out so that our cut is a little more precise. Now you can peel these sunflowers off the mat and maybe add them to a scrapbook or another project you're working on. If you learned something new today, be sure to hit that like button. And if you still have questions, leave them in the comments below. I hope to see you on more crafting adventures. And in the meantime, if you want to see more related videos, check out some of the ones I have listed down below in the description of this video.